I'll call to order this. I will call to order this meeting of the Joint Appropriations Committee meeting at 9:10 on Thursday, March 7th, 2024. We have a single item on the agenda, which is to look at interim topics for the coming 2024 year. We have a memo prepared by staff where they've consolidated all the suggestions of legislators, grouped them logically, and because we as committee members have been on here so long, we're familiar with most of the topics, but what we most want to do is be able to hear from the public on their input on those. So we'll, Mr. Co-Chair, with your permission, we'll have Polly give us a overview of the topics, and then perhaps we can see if the committee has any comments and questions, and then open it up for public comment. Does that seem good? All right, Polly, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, committee. Polly Scott, LSO Budget Fiscal.
Oh, I'm sorry, call the roll.
Oh, right.
Senator Anderson.
Here.
Senator Guru.
Excused.
Senator Nethercott.
Excused.
Senator Salazar. Representative Henderson.
Here.
Representative Larson. Representative Sherwood. Representative Stiff.
Here.
Representative Walters. Representative Zwanesser.
Here.
Co-Chairman Nicholas. Chairman Kinski.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
All right, Polly, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you all have in front of you a short memo dated March 4th that I prepared. The committee received through the website 28 different interim topic submissions. I took them all and just grouped them according to the different categories. So there were 7 submissions related to gaming, the Gaming Commission, or interactive gaming, also referred to as iGaming. Those topics are listed here. This is the verbatim text that came through the website along with the contact person, and if there was a legislator indicated as a sponsor as well. I also just want to remind you that the current budget bill does have in it a footnote on the Gaming Commission for a study of gaming as well. So that kind of goes along with the topic. On page 2, down the middle of the page, there were 5 submissions related to enterprise technology services or the state's process for providing information technology systems. 1 submission was for a review of the University of Wyoming's Information Technology Center, and I put all those 5 together so you can compare the different language about those. And then there were 16 additional topics, each submitted once. Those are all listed at the bottom of page 2, and then on to pages 3 and 4. And those were, just a variety of topics that you can review the exact language that was submitted through the website. And also, I wanted to just mention that the last 2 topics, 15 and 16, came from the Department of Homeland Security. They were allowed to go past the deadline because they were involved in some emergency activities. And so those submissions came late, but that's the exact language that was provided through the website. And then you do have the web form submissions, including these 2 additional ones, all in your packets. And that is the summary of the topics. I know there are a lot of people here to testify, and
Committee members, anything else? Comments, adds, subtracts? Okay, Mr. Co-Chair, I just have one late add. I'd like to see us understand UW's research and development process and procedures. I understand from talking to Trustee McKinley that they have a process, 3 agreements developed by outside counsel that are standard in top university research universities for sharing of intellectual property and partnering with outside enterprises. And I don't know that I want us to do anything about it. I'd just like to understand it. That would be helpful. And with respect to high bay and SER, Alex Keene is working with High Bay to get them onto the standard kind of University of Wyoming budgeting process. And so I think understanding the progress on that would be helpful as well. And it need not take a whole lot of time, but I'll just throw those out there. Okay, Representative Stith.
Chairman Kinski, and so would that project then dovetail with the other two topics related to the university, the review of the high bay facility and the SER budgeting topic? We kind of lump them all together perhaps?
Yes, Representative Stith, that would be my intent. Yeah, thank you. Anything else from the committee? All right, well, the important part is to hear what you folks have on your mind. I'm going to open up for public comment. There's a lot of topics and a lot of commenters, so we're going to limit it to 2 minutes each. And first up is, I see Representative Davis here. I'm going to take any legislators that are here first. Is there anybody here besides Representative Davis in addition to? All right, Representative Davis, welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring you interactive gaming. This is something that I think we need to look at with the state of Wyoming. The infrastructure from sports wagering is already in place, and this would just layer right up on top of that. I think it's very important to try and protect our public here and give them a good platform to work off of. There could be substantial revenue depending upon what the tax structure is on it. And I would answer any questions if you have any that I can.
I'm not a gambler. What is iGaming? Give me an example if you could, please.
Mr. Chairman, it's iGaming, not gambling.
Oh, okay.
It occurs on your handheld devices, and currently it's being served off of offshore platforms, which would be where you would present your base, your bank is, and it's not secure. So anybody can sit in their basement on their handheld devices or in their car going down the road in the back seat and play Vegas-style games on there.
Can they get rich right away doing it then? Is that
If
the
you were
idea?
probably on a Mr. Chairman, if you're on a platform that was state regulated, you probably could. If you're offshore, that might be a little gray area in there if you would receive your funds back from your winnings.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, I think it would be very lucrative to look at this.
Representative Nicholas's mic was not on, so for those listening at home, he asked, would this require us to go offshore to investigate? All right. Anything else for Representative Davis? All right. Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, Bob. Okay. Next up. Don't be shy. Jeremiah, I know you're just itching.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Morning, Delbert.
Delbert McComey, Director for the State Construction Department.
Could you pull the mic just a little bit closer?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The topic that I bring to the committee to review is a strategic review of funding for both the school buildings and the state capitol buildings. And it is looking at funding from routine maintenance, major maintenance, and capital construction. I've had the privilege after I retired with working with a firm that does strategic planning on buildings, and I was actually able to work on a couple of projects for them for large DOTs around the United States, and got me thinking about how we fund and look at funding for everything from routine maintenance, major maintenance, and capital construction here in the state of Wyoming. And I think it would be a great benefit to the state to take a strategic plan, look 20 years into the future on how we proceed with our buildings, both on the K-12 side and our state buildings. to figure out funding mechanisms. Are we doing the right thing on that? Timing of when that's done. And I think there's a lot of benefits to doing that. First off, we've all been here and seeing the bust boom cycles of the state government. And so you get this kind of sine wave curve where in some years when I was
That was
first
a
direct.
cosine.
What's that?
That was a cosine.
Cosine, okay. When I was first director for the State Construction Department, we had two bienniums on the school side where we had roughly about $600 million a year biennium building schools. And so at that point in time, we had about $2 billion worth of construction between the state side.
Dell, we went over 2, but I'm going to give you a little bit of grace. This is a big topic.
Okay. And so what happened is shortly after that, then the bottom fell out of the funding for the state of Wyoming, and we went to zero. And what we learned when we were spending all that money and pushing all those big projects out the door in a short period of time is we created our own inflation in the state. We figured that we could build 3 more elementary schools for the cost of the inflation that we created ourselves and pushing those big projects out. We invited a lot of out-of-state contractors into the state because we didn't have the fundamental backbone in our own contracting industry. And so when that was done, those out-of-staters left, and some of the projects that maybe some of our in-state contractors could have done, they were either subbing on or not doing them themselves. And so they lost a lot of their workers. So by, I guess, looking at the strategic plan and equalizing that over time, I think a number of things can happen.
Okay, Dell,
It can.
let me see if the committee has it, because we're pushing up on 4 minutes. Committee, do you have any questions for Delbert? Please, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director McComey, and this kind of comes to you as well, Director Bach. So this really makes sense with the work that we've been trying to accomplish in accountability and preservation of assets and stuff, but it also fits into that area, and hence my question, because as we done the Riverton office building stuff last year, we identified that we don't really have anything in place to identify where our needs are for state office space and in state office capital construction. So would that fit into that to where we kind of, in our capital construction requests, that we could start including the needs on our state offices and in assets as well?
Mr. Chairman, I believe it would. I think this is going to be a big, heavy lift, and I don't think it's a single biennium look. I think the first biennium is flushing out those type of needs and look exactly what Representative Larson looked at, so that then we could put a consultant on in between for the next biennium or the next year's look for the committee to have that in place so that he could address the various issues that we come up with during looking at it this session, this upcoming session.
Please,
Chairman Kinski, Representative Larson, I agree with everything Dell.
state your name for the
I'm
record.
sorry, it's Patricia Bach, the Director of A&I. I do agree, Dell and I talked about this quickly, and agree that it is probably more than just an interim topic and then we go. But I think it might fit in nicely with another interim topic you have as the real property acquisition. I think that all kind of goes together, so I'm definitely in favor of it.
Thank you, Representative. All right, Delbert, we're going to go over to Patricia Bach, and then we'll go to Jeremy Ryman. Thank you. Welcome, Director Bach.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. There's one topic we have, that's security. I think this committee has talked about it before. We've not had security at the buildings in the last year. We do have the agencies band together up at Thyra Thompson in Casper, and they do have something similar to what SecOps was for the Capitol down here in Cheyenne. And I wanted to be able to revisit that and maybe have another discussion. I don't think it takes a lot of time. I think it's a smaller discussion since you guys have discussed it in the past. So we would hope that you would be able to revisit that issue, and especially with some of the bills that might be going through, we have a lot of changes we need to make. And I want to make sure that we are on top of that.
Okay, anything for Patricia Bach on security? Okay, other topics?
Mr. Chairman, that's all we have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ryman?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jeremiah Reeman here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. We're
I swear to
certainly,
God, I will learn to pronounce your name correctly. My apologies.
Mr. Chairman, you're perfectly fine. Mr. Chairman, we're certainly interested in the broader gaming conversation, but there's one particular piece of it that we would like to focus on, and I'm on page 10 of your document, and that is local control of historic horse racing. We now know from Supreme Court opinion that counties only have the ability to approve historic horse racing, but don't have the ability to unwind anything or regulate after that. Some counties have tried to do that through resolution, and that may work, but it hasn't been challenged. Other counties are afraid to get into the space because they're not so certain that those resolutions would stand. So we're interested in digging into that a little bit further, perhaps some statutory changes that would grant more control to local governments. We've been working with at least one of our business partners on some draft legislation to bring you, and would just ask for some time on that particular topic during this interim as you work. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for any questions.
Questions? Questions? Mr. Co-Chair, can you remind me why we're the gambling committee? Turn your mic on.
I think it's just by default.
There's not another standing committee that could take that topic over?
We've been doing it since 6 years, 8 years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jeremiah. Welcome.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. I'm Sarah Dorenzo. I'm the Gaming Policy Advisor for Governor Mark Gordon's office. The governor's office submitted a request for a comprehensive study on the adequacy of resources and the regulatory structure to address the current and growing gaming industry and set a vision for the future. The shape and scale of gaming in Wyoming is growing rapidly, and that growth has supported horse racing, the breeding industry, business, and contributed sizable revenue to the state, and that's all expected to continue. However, managing and understanding, as well as forecasting that growth has been a real challenge. And the governor sees this reflected in the piecemeal approach to governing gaming as new forms have been legalized. And we also don't understand the social impacts of the growth of gaming in our state. So we believe that a review of the industry and the laws is worthy of discussion and input into the proper regulation and uniformity of laws across gaming types, as well as ensuring strong consumer protection. We also support study into the structure of the Gaming Commission to ensure that it is able to meet growth demands. So thank you for the consideration of this topic, as well as all the work you've already done to look to the future of gaming this session.
Thank you. Questions from Ms. DiRenzo? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Questions?
you mentioned that, was the governor, has he commissioned or was he about to commission some type of, in your opening comments, or is it the suggestion that we do that?
Mr. Chairman, Chairman Nicholas, the suggestion is that it's taken up as an interim topic.
But wasn't there also funds allocated in the budget for a gaming study?
Yes, I think so.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who else is going to talk about gaming or gambling? Okay, we'll take Jonathan and then Dave. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. Jonathan Downing, appearing on behalf of Pace-O-Matic and Cowboy Skill Games. We operate and had advocated over the last several years for a regulatory structure for skill games in Wyoming. That regulatory structure had set limits and regulations in place as far as the amount of games in a location being 4 per, mostly like in bars and restaurants and those types of over 21 areas. We are supportive of the Walter's proposal for Department of Revenue Division of Gaming. We're also supportive of the efforts, whether it be in the budget or the governor's office proposal, to do a deeper dive. We think we're at a stage within the industry right now where you need that regulatory framework, which the Gaming Commission has been very effective on as far as the challenges that have been placed in front of them. However, we're sort of evolving into that stage of a regulatory framework, a taxation framework, and a licensing authority. And within those respects, having worked with other major industries in Wyoming over the years, think that it might be better served for some of those entities to be under Department of Revenue if you do decide to take a look at a division of gaming. That's not to say there aren't other good ideas out there, but that's one of the areas that we think is worth a look for the interim. And likewise, thank you, Appropriations Committee, for taking the heavy lift over the last several years. Wasn't necessarily the issue that always leapt out as far as Appropriations Committee, but a number of members of this committee did dive deep on this issue and the other related issues that come with gaming. And what do we want Wyoming to look like as we have that framework in place?
All right, thank you. Questions? Mr. Downing? No? All right, Mr. Picard, welcome.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Dave Pickard. I'm representing the Fantasy Sports Alliance and the Sports Betting Association.
That's my bad, sorry.
No worry, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to share our thoughts as well in support of the discussion on iGaming and the discussion on the governance of gaming operations in general. I'm not going to repeat everything that Mr. Downing and Ms. DiLorenzo said, but I think it is timely to have that discussion, have a broader understanding about all aspects of the gaming environment. And I would like to add just one additional point on Representative Davis's topic for iGaming. What I think the committee needs to understand and the legislature needs to understand is that this activity is going on currently in the state of Wyoming and it lacks any consumer protection. And in so much as it also does not bring in any revenue to the state of Wyoming, much like sports betting several years ago and the purpose of bringing that before the legislature. So with that, Mr. Chairman, again, we support the efforts on gaming within this committee, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? Questions, thank you. We have former speaker of Tom Lubnow online, and so let's see what he's got on his mind. Tom?
We'll just take a moment.
Okay. There he is.
Am I there?
You are there. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for the way I'm dressed. I'm away from home and neglected to bring any dress clothes. I'm here in my capacity as the liaison to Governor Gordon to the Gaming Commission, and you've seen his interim topic requests. Last year, total wagers under the area of control of the Gaming Commission, that'd be horse racing, skill-based games, online gaming, and wagering, exceeded $1.9 billion. That's up from $1.4 billion last year. That's a huge segment of money from the state of Wyoming dedicated to gaming. Of those total wagers, the payout to the public was $1.78 billion. Tax revenues received by the state of Wyoming were in excess of $33 million, and the net proceeds to the operators were in excess of $170 million aggregate. With huge profitability comes huge demand and more opportunity for people wanting opportunity to get into the gaming business. Your Gaming Commission regulates that volume of business with a staff of 13. I was there when Representative Wallace snickered and passed the HHR bill. And then the statutes have been amended, and now we have a cobbled together mishmash of inconsistent statutes that are hard to administer. In addition, the legislature as a whole needs to participate in this because there's no long-term vision, and the legislature is the vision. And so the administrative branch or executive branch needs guidance on where the state of Wyoming wants to go. Right now, we have inconsistent application of prosecutions throughout the state. We have concerns regarding problem gaming. the saturation of the market and demand for more services. We also need to assure protection of the state from state consumers and industry from illicit and unethical gaming activity. When you have lots and lots of money, you invite some not so nice people into our state to get a part of that not nice money. Right now, the people who are participating are highly ethical. Our gaming commission is doing a marvelous job with the staff they have regulating the industry, but we need to look at our industry and make sure we have an overarching vision. We also need to look at the tax structure and make sure that the taxes are allocated fairly and evenly. Right now, there's a mishmash of how you pay out the taxes. Also, just as a matter of news for you all, Charlie Moore sent his retirement letter today. He and the commission have done a marvelous job. We need increased stateside staffing and depth of knowledge for our gaming commission. We also are riding hard and putting up wet our gaming commission. They will have meetings every month or every other month this year dealing with gaming commission activities. And I think that you need to look at how that gaming commission is structured and maybe look at a public service commission model because it is such a large segment of the population.
Tom, we're on 4 minutes. I'm giving you a
Oh,
little
I'm
bit of
sorry.
leeway.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'll shut up.
No, yeah. You know, we used to work together. I never did talk to you that way. Questions for former Representative Lubnow? Tom, I guess the one thing I would ask is I'm worried that, you know, this started in memory of Sue Wallach and John Schiffer. Originally, it started out as historic horse racing that was intended to promote breeding of horses in Wyoming and live races in Wyoming. And I'm afraid that's gotten lost. I don't know that it's achieved that objective, but I don't want that to be overlooked in the process either. Are we really promoting that industry, and are we really getting the live horse racing we'd like? I just add that as a parenthetical to the long list of things that you had for us, which would take at least one meeting anyway.
Mr. Chairman, the numbers answer your question. The handle for live horse racing was $2.9 million this year. The handle for historic horse racing was $1.694 billion.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Anything else for Representative Lubnow? All right. Thanks, Tom. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mike Smith, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Smith with the University of Wyoming. I won't take much time other than, given your discussion earlier today, wanted to encourage the committee to visit the university. We'd love to have you and welcome the discussion about all the great research going on there, tech transfer issues, high bay, and I don't speak on behalf of SCR, but I'm sure the ERC board would also welcome that discussion as well. So look forward to having you. Hope that occurs, and happy to stand for any questions.
Well, you heard the topic that we were talking about, to just fully understand your research and development process and these agreements that have been fashioned by outside counsel. Is that something that you think the university would be comfortable with? We've had a lot of discussion about it this session.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. And those, you all have mechanisms if there are pieces of those agreements that, for whatever reason that I don't know of now, need to be discussed in executive session or something, we can arrange that. But we would welcome that discussion, and I believe most of that would be open discussion.
Okay, thank you. Anything from Mr. Smith? All right, thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Hey, good morning. Good to see you again.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Darren Westby, Director of YDOT. Thank you for the opportunity. I saw on the list of proposed interim topics of funding conversation as well as MRG funding that could potentially affect the agency, and appreciate the topic. I know we have a topic also going in front of the Joint Transportation Committee as well. And so we'll see how that goes. But during our budget presentation, it was discussed that possibly a three-committee, at least understanding of the YDOT funding mechanism, where it comes from, kind of a history of where we're at today, as well as where we need to be in the future. And so I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the topic in the interim.
Questions from Mr. Westby. Senator Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, this would be more of a informational thing for this group. Seems like it fits better with transportation, but this agency, it would sure be good for this JAC to know how your budget is. Thank you.
As Representative Larson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Director Westby. My time here on the Appropriations Committee over the last 10 years, or 8 years, whatever it's been, we've seen that this committee impact your agency through the appropriation or removal of general funds, mainly because of pressures on our general fund revenues. So in 15, 16, in that time frame, we really removed everything for YDOT off the general fund and have held you to that for the most part over the last almost a decade now. And historically, that's not always been the case. And so I think there's real validity to this committee because we're the ones that are then, we need to understand what your issues are because we're the one that keeps pulling the purse strings and saying, you're going to have to do it on your own, or Director Westby, do this study with highway funds, or make this cut with highway funds. And so I think we do that somewhat, ignorance is bliss a little bit, and I think we do that without a complete understanding of the impacts had on your agency. And I would just support that we indeed do need to understand this and understand that your home committee is transportation, but we're the ones that leave you walking away with a trail of blood behind you. So,
Mr. Chairman and
That was
Senator.
a good question.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, as well as Representative, thank you for the comments. Yes, I heard a lot of discussion on the floors, both sides, of needing for education, the history of the funding, the flat line of our funding, let alone, where we're going into the future with our buying power. And so if we want to continue to invest in our infrastructure that we've spent trillions of dollars on over the course of the years of our highway system, it's definitely worth the time spent on education as well as looking into the future on funding. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Anything else from Mr. Westby? I'll tell you what I would add. I think it's one thing to talk about the funding. I think we also need to talk about how you select your projects, why you select your projects. I've seen a lot of money spent in Sheridan. I have no idea why you were doing it. A complete tear down and rebuild of an intersection that was fine. And the rationale was, well, it doesn't meet current standards. Well, I live in a house that doesn't meet current standards. I don't tear it down and rebuild it. And then context-sensitive design, getting your agency to actually cooperate with local communities on context-sensitive design has been a struggle for a long time, and I'd appreciate if you took a look at that. And then there's a trend in highways and roads called road diet, where they're finding ways that they don't have to have these massive projects designed quite the way that they are. And I promised Chairman Boner that I would get him information on consultants in that area. We hired them in the city of Sheridan, and they were really able to help pare back some things where we were over designing our roads, saved us a lot of money, and actually helped the community be more beautiful. So I'll just add that for your consideration. Think not just about how we get more money, but how about we spend the money? How is it we spend the money the way we do? That's just my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And there's a big push within the agency as well, just to ensure that we're really focusing on the customer service aspect. And our litmus test should be, does the community want us back? And if that's the case, then we've done our job. And if not, then maybe we need to look elsewhere. So we're going to continue to study that as well. So I appreciate that opportunity.
Yeah, that's Representative Larson.
I agree with your question.
Yeah, my question, yeah. Thanks, touche. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Won't you agree, right? Thanks for that. And to do that, you're going to have to rethink your whole design process because it's a 5-year design process. And YDOT holds hearings in the community. They're not hearings, they're tellings. Here's what we decided to do. You got any comments? That's the way it works. And you say, well, I'd like to change this. Oh, it's too late. The design's all done. That hearing process has to start at the very beginning, not after they've locked in on the plans. And that's part of that discussion.
Mr. Chairman, that's great feedback, and we'll continue to strive to do better.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the job you're doing there.
Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Westby? All right. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Kelly Little. I'm with the Associated General Contractors of Wyoming. I'll be very brief. I'm here to speak in support of the Wyoming Department of Transportation funding topic. And just, I really appreciate a holistic approach to that, whether that's a multi-committee approach. We're eager and willing to be participants in that discussion over the interim. I'd also like to speak in favor of Director McComey's, future look at comprehensive planning for state construction and K-12 facilities. So we'll also be watching that in the interim if you guys take that up. So appreciate that, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Kelly? None? Thank you, Kelly. Oh, yes, please, Representative Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question on looking for ideas on how to build, our workforce relative to the construction sector. We hear a lot of talk about Wyoming preference, but we can't have that if we don't have the workforce. So I'd be welcome to ideas on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just comment on that real quickly. AGC of Wyoming is on the pulse of workforce development, and we have a pretty robust program going into high schools in Wyoming and recruiting and promoting CTE and those who want to follow a path that leads to a career in the construction trades.
Thank you, Representative. Welcome.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Jessie Defoe, and I am representing the Wyoming Contractors Coalition. And Representative Henderson, I appreciate your comments because that's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. We too want to speak in support of Director McComey's interim topic. We are looking at workforce, and even as you guys discuss different projects happening right now, my group is looking and saying, well, is this project going to happen? Do we need, to up our workers? Do we need to scale back in certain areas? And so just in order to provide the right workforce for the projects that you're looking at, we think that this study would be enormously beneficial for Wyoming. And however we can support that interim topic, we would love to do so.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Defoe? All right, thank you both. Anyone else? Anyone else? Public comment on interim topics for the committee? All right, I'll close public comment. It's to the committee. Any comments? We break early, or we can talk about some of this stuff a little bit. What's on your minds? Okay, I'll just declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much.